So welcome everyone. My name is Amy DeVita and I'm the managing partner here at Top Nonprofits. As I said, I'm really excited about today's webinar. It's called How to Get Giving Tuesday Ready in 30 Days. Today's event is being recorded and you will get the recording emailed to you tomorrow. I also want to let you know that there will be time at the end for a Q&A with our awesome presenters. So please hold your questions until then. Again, I'm really so glad all of you are here, and I'd like to take a moment and thank DonorDrive for making this free event possible and bringing in such great talent. So just for those of you who don't know, but most of you do, Giving Tuesday was created in 2012 by the 92nd Street Y and the United Nations Foundation as a philanthropic counter to the commercialism of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Since then, it's become the single largest day of giving in the year, and participating in it is really no longer optional. So today we have some amazing tips and tools from our guests to help you get the most out of your Giving Tuesday campaign. Let's start to get a gauge on everyone's level of comfort or level of preparedness. I'm launching a poll. If you want to take a second and reply, how ready is your nonprofit for Giving Tuesday? And we'll come back to that in a second. I would like to introduce our guests. Joining me today are your presenters, John Haydon. He's the nonprofit marketing strategist, author, and speaker extraordinaire. Hi, John.
Hi, Amy. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here too. Thank you. Also with us today, hi, Jim Richter. He's Client Success Manager for DonorDrive, and he has a long list of national and international organizations with whom he's acted as a fundraising partner. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Amy. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yay. Terrific. And hi, Joanna in the background. She's gonna stay quiet, but she's there and she's making sure everything's cool. Okay, so John and Jim, the poll, I'm just going to give you an overview where we are. Let's see, 48% have not started. So that's about half of the folks on the call today. 42% do have a plan, but have not pushed out the plan yet. 7% have a marketing campaign in place and are looking for a few more ideas, and 4% chose the What's Giving Tuesday. So we're starting from scratch. I just wanted to give you kind of that gauge where everybody is and hope that can help guide how we proceed. A lot to cover, so I will send it over to you, John. Please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Amy. And let's see, I'm going to remove the poll. Is that okay? It's in my face. Okay. Great. All right. Awesome. So welcome, everybody. We're going to talk about how to get Giving Tuesday ready in 30 days. And this is our agenda. Jim and I are actually going to touch on a couple of topics back and forth. But basically, we're going to talk about leveraging the best social media channels, engaging supporters during Giving Tuesday, and actually every day, some strategies for social media, taking advantage of a match to leverage the giving that's going to be happening in such a concentrated amount of time. So partnering with companies and sponsors, and then enhancing your campaign with digital ads. So these are, and also, please take out a piece of paper and a pen. You'll want to take notes, and you'll also get some worksheets and guides and so forth like that you'll see in the slides as we proceed. So here we go. So the first thing, let's just put it out there. Giving Tuesday is not only about raising money. If you look around and you look at the other nonprofits that you're, aspiring to or competing with, they're doing different strategies. Some just make it a total celebration to appreciate donors, which actually will set the stage for greater year-end participation, right? When you thank your donors, of course, that makes them feel good, and it's going to increase the likelihood that they will come back and give again. Many organizations focus on donor acquisition during Giving Tuesday and then look to convert those folks to monthly donors at year end, right? And these are just some different strategies that you can consider for your organization. I'm not going to read them all because we have limited time, tons of questions to go through. But the idea is that, think of Giving Tuesday as one massive event within the context of your whole year. Of course, It's right after Black Friday and right after Thanksgiving. So, and it's running right into December, the biggest month of the year. So you have to really think about how the timing is and what's going to work best for your organization, right? It could be about raising money. It could be about donor acquisition. It could be about appreciation. It could be about promoting monthly giving, right? It could be about connecting with sponsors. But you have to decide what it's going to be for your organization strategically, okay? That's the first thing. The second point here is that we need to, first of all, reach out to our people, right? Now, just for a basic level understanding, all nonprofits are connected with three groups of people: our community, the network, and the crowd, okay? Oops, I'm sorry about that. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, so community, network, and crowd. Community, these are people who you already have a relationship with. They're in your database. They're actually most likely to give. Now, the network are people that you have indirect access to via your community's friends, okay, or via your community. So this is where you engage your community, you get them so excited that they can't help but share your campaign with their friends. That's where we're going to connect with the network, all right? So there's strategies around that. And then the crowd, everyone else, let's say you're a diabetes organization, everyone that cares about diabetes, that's the crowd. You know, these people, you know, many of them are total strangers. They're going to be least likely to give, but we can definitely reach them in a number of different ways. The key is to really start with your community, to start to understand your community, what they care about, what motivates them, what's trending in their world, right? So with your organization, there may be a big topic right now that people are talking about on the news, and you want to take advantage of that. You want to be part of the conversation rather than spending a lot of energy trying to create a brand new conversation, brand new awareness that people are going to try and, you know, get into, right? It's much easier to kind of go to the community. What are they talking about? What do they care about? And what type of stories are really going to engage them the most, okay? And this is really about right message, right person, and right time. Right message, right person, right time, okay? And of course, we can get into, excuse me, email marketing and segmentation and social media and really defining your audience this way, which is really actually the first step with any marketing campaign. We have to understand that all supporters are not equal, right? When we're talking about our community, you know, the people that we have direct access to, we have donors, volunteers, advocates. We have people that have marginal interest. You know, maybe they went to an event because their friend guilted them into going to that event, and now they're part of your database, but really their interest in your organization is not so much. They don't have much interest. We have event attendees and so forth. So we want the ability we want to be first, you know, kind of segment and look at these different populations and develop strategies to engage these people in the context of Giving Tuesday. Now, when we drill down even to donors, we understand that donors are not equal as well. We have first-time donors, all right? The only thing that we know about first-time donors is that they have the ability to take their wallet out of their pocket and give you money. That's it. We have no idea really how committed they are to our cause. If they're a returning donor, if they give more than once, that's a huge sign, right? They've gone beyond that kind of impulse giving, and they've made that they made that commitment known to you. Monthly donors are a totally different animal altogether. If we want to call donors heroes, we can call monthly donors superheroes, okay? This is a small group of exclusive donors that are committed to your cause for the long term, and they really their psychology revolves around exclusivity, that they're part of a special group, separate from other donors. You know, I'm not just a donor, I'm a super special monthly donor, right? And of course, we have donors who gave over a year ago, and we could segment donors by giving amount and by program if we wanted to, okay? So really the first step is to segment your audience and start asking some basic questions. Now, here's a one-page marketing plan for Giving Tuesday. I encourage you to print it out and fill it out. Actually, doing this work will definitely be helpful to most organizations. But we want to ask some basic questions. Primarily, who are we trying to engage? You're not going to focus on every single segment in your database. Some are going to stand out, and you'll say, wow, these people are perfect for Giving Tuesday. The next thing to ask yourself really is, what's in it for them, okay? They're not going to give you money because you're a great organization or you're nice people or you have great programs. That's never the case. They're not going to give you money because they're generous, okay? They're going to give you money because of the good feeling that they get from doing so. That's basically why they're going to give. So if you can position them as the hero in your campaign, for example, an organization that's dealing with hunger, you want to present a story where the donor can come along and feed hungry children, and they are the hero. And that's what they want, right? Ultimately, that's what they want. Of course, you want to ask what's in it for us. We're trying to grow our database, our monthly giving program, more names, our donor list, and so forth. And then finally, how do we promote the campaign, and how do we measure success, okay? Now, we could spend a whole hour on this if we wanted to, but we're not because of time. But this is these are some basic questions that every single organization really has to ask before they start any campaign. Okay, now, the timing on your campaign is really key, okay? Now, for Giving Tuesday and year-end, really any campaign, you're going to look at a timing of, in this example, we're looking at a timing of the final week towards the end, the final 2 or 3 days, and then 24 hours left. So think about how you're communicating the urgency that this is going to end. If you're going to be in this thing, you have to do it now or else, forget it, okay? So we have Salamta organization. They have final week, double your impact. I'll get into that later. That's about matching donors. And then we have 2 days left, right? Creating more urgency. And then finally, 24 hours to go. Now, if we notice here, these are different messages. And I'm not telling you whether this is on Facebook or Twitter or any other channel, but the point is you want to have a multi-channel approach where you're communicating this across all channels, okay? Now, if we dial out maybe 30,000 feet or a little bit above this, I'm going to share with you kind of a template that I use with a lot of clients. You can make it your own, basically make it your own. So we're talking about setting up your campaign about a month ahead of time, and then going through the 3 phases of launching and communicating any campaign, whether it's Giving Tuesday, year-end, an awareness campaign, anything. You're going to go through 3 phases. Announce, hey, we have this big thing coming up. You want to be part of it. Remind, okay? Hey, you want to remind people of the campaign. And that's the tricky part, really, is reminding people about it without saying, hey, give us money, right? Too many organizations, I think, get into the mistake of thinking that marketing is just repeating an ask over and over and over again until people just get tired and they give you money. That's not the case. So you have to be able to tell stories, right? So you announce the campaign, and then maybe during the reminder part, you're telling a story about why is this campaign important? And let's go back to our story about our family, who's really struggling. And they need help. They need support. And there are many families like this, right? So reminding people through different stories up until the last chance. And there's always going to be the last chance, by the way, especially Giving Tuesday. You're going to make announcements all throughout the day. This is really the day. Get on board. Don't miss out. This is really the urgent thing. And then after that, of course, we have thank you. And then always tell your donors what's next. Don't just leave them hanging. And again, this is something that I see all the time on Giving Tuesday. Please don't make this mistake. Please don't say, take. And then after Giving Tuesday, there's crickets. And then your supporters are wondering, well, did they hit their goal? What happened? I'm not sure. Always say thank you the day after, and always tell people what's next. Thank you so much for making this such a huge success. Here's what's next. Here's what's happening next. Okay? Leading them into the next campaign or the next initiative that you have. All right? So take this and, really consider things like audience, your story, your website, email, social media, and what you're going to be doing to kind of lead up and prepare for your campaign. These are just examples here. You can kind of make it your own. All right. Now, one more thing in your communication, of course, you want to be careful about what you're shining your communication or where you're shining your communication spotlight. Okay. Number one mistake that organizations make is that they focus on themselves. We're so great. Look at what we do. We do the world. Your gift to us, the awesome nonprofit, is going to help feed these hungry children. Okay, that's a no-no. Donors will often just, they don't resonate with that. Okay. Because again, the bottom line is that they want to be the hero. So you either tell stories about donors, here's Mary Jane, look at her, look at what she's done. She's a hero and she's made this effort to feed hungry children. Or you talk about impact. Here's a family that was struggling and now they're not struggling anymore, kind of before and after. So a couple points here. Always make the donor the hero who solves the problem and saves the day. Sometimes this is hard because, of course, you're sitting there and you're saying, well, John, we do all the work. Our program people do all the work. Yes, but we're talking about marketing, communication, okay? We're talking about communicating in a way that's going to move people to take action. And this is how you do it. Donors, it's also true, by the way, that donors are the hero. And without them, you wouldn't be able to make the impact. So it's not like you're telling a fib or anything like that. We're basically telling the truth, but we're emphasizing the role that the donor has. Replace we, take that spotlight off of we and us and our organization and focus it on you. Look at what you did and write as if you're talking about your favorite donor, talking directly to your favorite donor. Okay, so I'm going to pass it now over to Jim, who's going to talk about a few things you need to do to prepare your different channels, website, AdWords, and so forth.
So your website is very important. This is really the first place donors will see. It's your front door. Make sure that you have a real solid landing page that tells your story. Also, make sure that there's a call to action for somebody that's coming on there to donate, and make it very easy for them to find. In addition to a landing page that's Giving Tuesday specific, on your homepage, make sure that you have a call out for Giving Tuesday. So if they're landing on your homepage rather than the Giving Tuesday page specifically, they'll know how to get there directly. AdWords is another great way to leverage this. If you're using AdWords, do your homework. Make sure to find the best words or combination of words that really fit your cause. Don't be afraid to get very, very granular on this. And if you're not utilizing AdWords, look into leveraging that through Google Ad Grants, which is a wonderful program. Email, as John mentioned earlier, segmentation is very important. Don't just send out one blanket email to your entire constituent base. Segment the audience with the right messaging and make sure it's really tailored to them. So your volunteers, event participants, major donors, have a different message for each of them that speaks to them. And then last is going to be, Google Analytics. So if you're not sure what channels to focus on or where to start, Utilize analytics to look where people are coming from, where the traffic is coming from, and how they're getting to your site, and then focus on that. So if people are finding you through social media, focus on social media that day. If they're finding you through email, email is going to be your key. Focus on what you're doing successful and stick to that on Giving Tuesday.
Brilliant. All right.
So I think we're going to do a quick poll before we get started with the next section, right?
All right.
Okay, so quick question, guys. I'll just leave this here until you finish it, but which channel is most impactful for your nonprofit to solicit donations for Giving Tuesday based on your experiences? Please go ahead. And John, you can go right ahead.
Okay, great. And please don't let this slide be a kind of a subliminal suggestion on what you should answer. It's kind of funny. So most nonprofits, probably are aware of Facebook and Instagram, but of course there are other channels like YouTube and Twitter. So I'm just going to suggest a few strategies to make your social media content go that much further, okay? But basically, Carl Jung had this idea called persona theory. Persona theory basically says that we are constantly trying to make an impression on others, and it's a deliberate impression. When we get up in the morning, we put on makeup, we leave the house, and we're constantly trying to make an impression on other people. This is so true when it comes to social media. The reason why people share is to make a deliberate impression on other people. The reason why I'm stressing this is because, in a sense, it's not how your organization looks to the world. It really isn't when you're posting on social media. It's how you're enabling your supporters to look to their friends. So let's look at a couple of examples here, right? We have one from Being Liberal. Okay, we're not getting political here, but Being Liberal, right? And this woman says journalism. She's all about journalism. The person that shares this is saying, I care about free speech. I care about journalism and free speech, and it's important that my friends know that about me. Okay? In other words, the act of sharing itself is an intentional or a deliberate attempt to impress friends. It's conscious, right? Nobody's sharing because they just, oh, I'm sorry, I shared this thing that I didn't mean to share on Facebook. Everything that people share, they're deliberately trying to make this impression. Mercy for Animals, they share this post, right? I'm a vegan who cares about social justice, and it's important that my friends know this about me, right? The last one, I'm a nurse who cares about access to healthcare in Africa. And it's important that my friends know this about me. So when you're creating your content, creating your stories for Giving Tuesday or any other time during the year, really think about, how does this make our friends look, or our supporters look to their friends? You can ask this another way. You could say, would I share this with my friends? Really, and just be honest with yourself. Would I really share this with my friends? Or is this post on Twitter just an attempt, it's just a marketing post to try and make us look a certain way? Are we telling stories that are engaging people? And are these stories that our supporters want to be part of? Okay, so that's important to think about. Again, this gets back to taking the spotlight off yourself and put it on your supporters. Your stories should enable your supporters to have opportunities to look a certain way and make a definite impression on their friends, like Carl Jung is teaching us, okay? Now, let's drill into a little bit into Facebook, but a lot of this is going to apply to Facebook and Instagram, okay? Now, if you're familiar with Facebook a little bit, they've made a few changes over the past year in the news feed, mainly in response to clickbait, hacking, the Russians, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's just not the place that Facebook expected it to be. So they've made some dramatic changes to the news feed. And what they're really focusing on now is they're going to be ranking posts in a certain way, all right? So your content is going to get less exposure organically if it has little reactions or comments, If your content doesn't prompt conversations from friends, in other words, if it's passive content, right? If we talk about passive versus active content, passive content is, here's a video that you can watch. Okay, I'll watch a video. The active content is, you know, do you have a relative, you know, what's your number one tip as a caregiver for type 1 diabetes? You know, what's your recommendation? That's active. That's seeking a conversation. That's seeking a recommendation. And that's really what Facebook is looking for. Content that isn't newsworthy or relevant, of course, that's not going to fly anymore. And as I said before, content that puts the spotlight on how great your nonprofit is just doesn't resonate with people, and that's not going to get much airplay. So what you focus on instead is focus on content that's going to get more reactions and comments, okay? Number one way to get comments is to ask a question, and ask very specific questions, right? So again, you know, homelessness is, you know, have you ever known someone to be homeless? And what's your tip when you interact with a homeless person to make that person feel some sort of humanity, or recognize the humanity in that person rather than just throwing them a dollar bill, right? That's very specific, very specific. And also you want to prompt conversations. So what you'll notice is when you start asking super specific, relevant questions that people want to be part of, they'll answer those questions, but other people will converse back and forth with them, right? And what do you get there? Now you're developing a community, people that are connecting to each other and discovering each other and helping each other out. And also, you know, the other key is to share important and relevant news. So, you know, job one of any marketer for a nonprofit is to have your ear to the ground and find out what's trending, what are people talking about, what's newsworthy, what's important to them, and let's be part of that conversation when we're publishing content. And also content that puts the spotlight on your community and the power of your community. All too often, you know, we're in the business of, we're the experts. We're the expert diabetes nonprofit, so we're just going to dispense our expertise. But little do we know, our community, they've had diabetes for years. Caregivers, family members, and all that. So we can leverage that. We can say, you know, here's one way to eat a healthy breakfast in the morning when you're in a rush. What's your recommendation? When you have no time for breakfast, how do you put together a good breakfast that's going to be healthy for you in your situation? People come out of the woodwork. They want to share their experience and their recommendations, okay? Also, Facebook made it really clear that live video is really going to be the preeminent type of content, or the most engaging type of content on Facebook. And this is basically true, okay? And this is true on other platforms. So we're not going to talk about Facebook Live so much today. We're going to talk about live video. But the key with live video, and the reason why there's such a premium on it, and you know, everybody's doing it, right? Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, every single platform has live video because there's a premium on it. And the premium is this. The premium is be here now. Be here now. If you miss it, you can listen to the recording. But being here now, that's the value, to be here now, okay? So we're going to talk about leveraging live video. And at this point, I'm going to pass it back to Jim to kind of dive in a little bit more into the streaming aspect, live streaming.
I'm sure looking at the screen, a lot of you may be asking yourself, what is streaming? Why should my organization support this? And what is it all about? That's a great question and a natural one. Streaming right now is really the future of, you know, where things are going in society as well as fundraising. Right now it's dominating the social media landscape, and it's estimated to become close to a $70.5 billion industry by 2021. Constituents they're already using sites like Twitch, YouTube, Mixer to raise money for nonprofits. In fact, Twitch is the largest of them because they've been doing it since 2012. But they've raised over $75 million since 2012 for nonprofits. And of that, $30 million was last year. So you can see how quickly that's growing. Twitch also has more daily viewers than CNN and MSNBC, and it's very close to surpassing Fox News and ESPN in daily viewers. So that right there, tells you the importance of where people are finding their content. It's also not just for gaming, which a lot of people think when they hear Twitch. Gaming's still a very large part of it, but people are going on there and baking. They're streaming walks. They're doing telethons. Really, the sky's the limit. And people are going there to watch them do that and interact with them and donate to charities. So the key takeaway here is that it is very critical for you and your organization to really start to learn about streaming and adapt your online fundraising to it.
Perfect. Okay, great. Back to me, I guess, right?
I think I have a question to ask about the polling. Sorry.
Oh, good.
And so let me launch the poll about streaming. Bear with me for a second. Oh, I can't wait to get this. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Polling. It doesn't want to pop up for me. Okay. Question number 3. Here we go. Which streaming channels does your nonprofit actively use? So if you guys want to jump into that and answer those questions. I know this is new for some of you folks. It's certainly, I know Twitch is new to me, so I expect it to be new to a lot of other folks too. Okay, we're seeing those numbers climb, and all right, we'll take a snapshot and I'm just gonna share the results. So there you go. By and large, Facebook Live and YouTube. And so we're still new on the Twitch and Mixer. Okay, that's it for me, John.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. Wow, that's interesting, Jim. I didn't know that Twitch had more viewers than MSNBC or CNN. That's huge. And they've been doing fundraising for so many years. That's great.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah. So in terms of leveraging live video, many of you, it looks like many of you are already doing it, and that's great. Many people are participating today. And here's an example from Jane Goodall. Now, one of the keys with doing live video or any sort of social media effort is, definitely connect it to other channels. So Jane Goodall is doing a live chat, and she does a series of these. But if you notice, they are always promoting it with email, okay? And I'll get into why this is important in just a minute. But if you're going to do a live video, you want to do it right. If you're going to do it because it's live, right? We all know that probably the top, trending search terms on YouTube are newscast fails, right? We all love to see that. Live fails that's happening. You don't want to be part of that. So the first thing to do is to pick a topic that people want to discuss. Just because you can go live and broadcast something doesn't mean people want to see it, okay? So think about, trending topics or news, frequently asked questions about specific topics, giving an insider view behind the scenes. I work with a few animal shelters, and they're always broadcasting when there's a new animal that's arrived that's been abandoned, and now the vets are going to take over and take care of this animal. And, supporters, they love to see that stuff because what you're doing is you're bringing them to the moment of impact. You're showing them and giving them access to something that they've never been able to have access to before, which is behind the scenes and a much deeper connection to your organization. So number one, pick a topic that people actually want to discuss, okay? Number two, tell people when you're going to go live, right? Jane Goodall just doesn't throw up Facebook Live or Twitch or anything like that and then wonders, well, where is everyone? No, they send an email. They send several emails. They post updates on their page a week before. They update their page, on all social channels the day before and maybe the week before. They tweet about it before they go live. So what they're doing is they're leveraging all of their channels to, or leveraging all of their audience assets for that one opportunity. So definitely tell people when you're going to go live. Number 3, make an outline. It is live. You will make mistakes. You know, it's just part and parcel of being live, but you want to minimize your mistakes and your feeling of being unprepared by preparing an outline. So maybe introducing the topic, introduce yourself, have a list of interview questions if you're going to interview someone else. And when you start your broadcast, and this applies to any platform, the first 3 to 5 seconds is the most important thing, okay? So what do you do in the first 3 to 5 seconds? You have to have a value statement. You have to basically make a promise in the 3 to 5 seconds so that people, that you're going to deliver during the broadcast, right? So for example, an animal shelter would say, we have a brand new horse coming and we're going to welcome this horse today. Wow, that's great. I want to see the horse. So that's 3 to 5 seconds. The value is communicated. The viewer says, whoa, a horse, that's cool. I want to see the horse. So right away, you want to tell people what's it about and what's in it for them, okay? Number 4, always end with a call to action, and actually, you know, have several call to actions throughout, especially if you're doing fundraising. Now, this could be, you know, join the newsletter, like your page, follow us on social media, register for an event. These could be other calls to action, but make sure that you're doing this throughout the broadcast. Now, one quick tip when it comes to fundraising. You know, it's easy to say donate. Hey, donate, give us money. We're almost at our fundraising goal. That technically you could say is a call to action, right? But it's much better to say, you know, provide care for this horse. You know, please consider $5 to provide care for this horse. Let's all support this horse's new home and provide care, right? Or some other causes, you know, you can stop this injustice. You know, let's do this together. You know, everybody right now, let's do this together and stop this injustice. Donate now, right? So always tie your fundraising ask to the impact that the donor wants to ultimately see. If the donor isn't really interested whether you hit your fundraising goal or not, they are interested in whether the horse is going to get care and feeding at this new shelter, okay? So always end with a call to action. And then, Jim, I'm going to pass it back to you to discuss tying the streaming to your fundraising platform, because a lot of people here, you know, they mentioned that they use Facebook Live, and Facebook does have a fundraising feature, but the downside with Facebook, unfortunately, is that, you know, when you fundraise with Facebook, the Facebook platform, unfortunately, you don't have access to a lot of the donor data. And that's just because of how Facebook works. So it's much better, you know, to get that data yourself. So Jim, maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, why is it important to stream fundraising directly into your platform? You know, by utilizing your platform, it allows you, first and foremost, to keep your mission front and center and also control the branding. You'll be able to keep track of who's coming on your site to stream and, you know, fundraise for you, and also be able to collect very critical donor data. Another key advantage of that is all the donations that are received are deposited daily to your organization and into your bank account. So it allows you to instantly see the impact of their fundraising. You know, keeping all this in mind, DonorDrive just released a new feature called live fundraising that will actually allow you to do all these critical features within the fundraising platform. So this link right here will tell a little bit more and show you some video. So I would encourage everybody to go look at that, as well as you know, explore Twitch, Mixer, and YouTube, and just, you know, see what streaming is all about.
Awesome, thank you, Jim. So here's a one sheet that you guys can use to plan your next live video broadcast. pretty straightforward. You just kind of put in your compelling topic, how you're going to promote it, and then a little bit of an outline, and then, how you might repurpose your video once you, finish your broadcast. So please, when you get the slides, please print that one out and use it for your next broadcast. So I'm just going to share a couple more social media tips here. Let's see, I'm trying to get the slides to work. There we go. Now the key with social media, especially if we're using it for Giving Tuesday or year end or anything, is start early. That's the key, especially with Giving Tuesday, right? Don't wait until the morning of Giving Tuesday. Actually start on Black Friday. When everybody's looking and starting to shop, start on Black Friday to promote your campaign. And even, I would recommend even starting a month ahead of time, reaching out to your core supporters and saying, hey, can you promise to be there on Giving Tuesday? That way you have that core group of people that's really going to launch your campaign. You want to focus on creating powerful visual content that's going to tell a story and stand apart from your competition. You want to definitely plan out several messages across all social channels. It's not just one Facebook update that's going to do it. It's really repetition. It's different aspects of the story. And by the way, in terms of storytelling, you don't have to have a bunch of stories that you're telling. If you do, that's great. But ultimately, for any big campaign, you only need one good story that you can tell from many different angles, different aspects of that story. You can always come back to that. And time your social media efforts with email. Remember, I talked about the rhythm, announce, remind, last chance. Time that with your email messages and support your campaign with native ads, of course. We're going to talk about advertising in just a moment. But here are just a couple of examples on how some organizations are communicating their different campaigns, okay? Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about partnering with companies and sponsors to get more visibility. Now, in terms of matching gifts, if you're looking for a way to create urgency in any campaign, the best way to do it, or one of the best ways to do it, is to have a match, okay? That way, the donor feels, well, now's the time to do it. If I'm going to donate $50, that $50 is like $100. So really, it makes sense, and it does. It's such a powerful way to create a sense of urgency. You can get a matching donor, or sources of matching donors from current sponsors, and sponsors love this because, sponsors are trying to make money. They're for-profit organizations, but you're giving them an opportunity to look like the good guy. So it definitely enhances their branding, and there's so much benefit for them. So current sponsors we're looking at. Here's an example from Save the Tiger. You can look at this later on. Whoops, I don't know why it's dinging like that. Large donors or major donors, okay? Talk about a smart strategy for a major donor. Hey, we know you want to give us $20,000. How about if we take that $20,000 and turn it into 40? What are you talking about? Well, here's how it works. And then the major donor says, geez, I'm so glad I support this organization. They're so smart with how they're using my money, right? So major donors, don't forget about that. And also grants. You can apply for grants for a matching donor, and then corporate sponsors as well. And that may have employee matches too, okay? Now we're gonna switch a little bit. Last topic here is enhancing your campaign with digital ads. So I'm gonna pass it back to Jim.
Perfect, thanks. So some additional ways to really enhance your campaigns. Google AdWords, as we talked about before. Find relevant search terms that fit your organization, and don't be afraid to go after really long-tailed words. This is also something that you're not going to be able to just set it and forget it. Be monitoring this regularly on Giving Tuesday up to hourly. Make sure that you're remain very nimble. So if you notice something's not working, you know, adjust on the fly and don't be afraid of doing that. So from those AdWords, where was I? You know, from those that drive traffic to a relevant landing page as well, as I mentioned, that's Giving Tuesday specific. Make sure that the content on the landing page matches, you know, the search terms that you set, so that there's no confusion. If you already have an AdWords account, also set up a separate group just for Giving Tuesday. This will be much better for tracking the progress, and it will keep it separate from any other AdWords that you guys have set up. Retargeting is also a big thing. So audiences respond much more when they're reminded of you and your cause. So use retargeting to show ads again, you know, based on where supporters are in the process. So if they didn't donate, they just donated, or they're a reoccurring donor, you know, retarget them later on because they need to be reminded. You can do this through, you know, adding pixels to your websites and landing pages. And last, don't forget about YouTube. This is still a very huge search channel. So you can use this as a time to clean up your YouTube content and have your own video content on there, or look at doing ads or annotations across the videos on Giving Tuesday to drive traffic. So those are some important areas that you can utilize.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. So I'm going to leave people with, so I do a lot of work with Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns, and I've worked with a lot of different organizations, and these are really 3 different strategies that you can use to take to the bank, basically for Giving Tuesday or year end, any major campaign that you're trying to do across Instagram and Facebook. Now, because of time, I'm not going to get into the details of each one, but they're kind of, each strategy is kind of articulated in some detail. The first one is to ride the weekend wave. So if you're going to launch a Facebook or Instagram campaign, consider starting it on Thursday, when, you know, people are starting to use Facebook and Instagram a little bit more, and you're going to get that organic bump with your ad campaign, especially if you're doing boosted posts. Okay, make sure the ads are kind of more of a weekend flavor, like they're entertaining. Focus on boosting your top performing organic posts from the previous week, and consider, you know, again, starting your campaign, your run dates on a Thursday or a Friday. All right, so that's riding the weekend wave. The second one is a little bit more complex, but it's actually pretty powerful. Warming up your audience with video. All right, so video, as I said before, video is the most engaging type of content on Facebook or Instagram. And video views are also the cheapest type of ad. All right, so video is the cheapest type of ad. So what you can do is you could create a Facebook ad campaign that focuses on telling stories with videos, boosting those video views. And then you can create actually a custom engagement audience of all the people that view that video. And then your follow-up campaign, you're going to have a follow-up campaign that's going to target those people who view the video. So let me show you what this looks like in practice, okay? So this is an organization, they're trying to create awareness about biomarkers, okay? And who the heck knows what a biomarker is? That's why they need the video, okay? So they have this video, they have a really powerful story about this woman talking about stage 3 colon cancer. Lots of people watch it, lots of people engage with it, lots of people leave comments. And, you know, it kind of is a lightweight education around biomarkers. Now, people that see this, they are all going to see a direct call to action, which is, hey, download a free biomarker information kit. All right. So they see the video, which is a penny, 2 cents for them to view. And then immediately after that, they're starting to see these call to action. So it really, it's almost like a 1-2 punch. It's like, you know, you see the video, you warm up your audience, you create awareness, and then that audience that has just seen the video, they're now going to see an ad. You can even get more specific that we want to show this ad to people that watched at least 25% of the video, you know, assuming that those are people that stuck around long enough and they have interest, all right? So this is warming up your video, your audience with video. And then the third strategy, which is pretty powerful, especially for Giving Tuesday or really any fundraising campaign, is to recapture donation page abandoners, right? So even if you use the best fundraising platform on in the world, DonorDrive, and you have a beautiful fundraising page that is so incredibly compelling and effective, you're not going to get 100% of the people to give. It's just impossible. You'll be lucky on the high end if you get a 20% conversion rate, which is huge. So we're talking about 80% of the people that go to that donation page, they may have had an intention to give, but somehow it just, they didn't connect. The timing was wrong. They got distracted. The dog started barking. And then later on, what they see now is because they visited that page, they're going to start seeing ads on Instagram and Facebook reminding them to finish the good job that they started. And this is a screenshot here of, you know, how sophisticated you can get with it. You can basically create a rule that says, and you do have to install a pixel on your website to do this, but you know, your web developer can do this. It's not rocket science. But basically the rule says that people who visited your donation page but didn't see the thank you page, this is the audience that's going to see this ad, all right? And it's almost like a second layer, almost like a safety net around your donation page, just a little bit of an extra effort to drive people back to that donation page, along with email, social media, and all of your other channels, all right? So this is the third strategy that we're talking about. And I'm going to leave you guys with a cheat sheet for creating compelling Facebook ads. And I'm going to pass it back to Jim.
Perfect. So I think that's it. I know we have a little bit of time, so I think we're going to do some Q&A. But I want to thank Amy and Nonprofit Pro for having DonorDrive and having us, and John for his expert knowledge and wonderful presentation. So I appreciate it, and thank everybody for joining us. This was wonderful. I know there are some questions, so I'll turn that over to Amy, but just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, John. Thanks to all
Thank
of you
you
out there and asking your questions. Those of us here at Top Nonprofits are really grateful to DonorDrive for making this a free event for people to learn from. So thanks, everybody. So a couple questions that have come in, and I urge you to put them into the Q&A tool and send those to me if you have a question you'd like to ask. We have 5 minutes. All right. So Giving Tuesday happens in about 1.5 weeks after a local Giving Day. I'm sorry, this is a question from Allison. Giving Tuesday happens about 1.5 weeks after a local Giving Day we also participate in. Do you have any tips how to explain to donors why we're doing a one-day push again? So do either John or Jim want to field that one?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, again, it's about context, right? So if you just had a big Giving Day, maybe you could, you know, not worry so much about raising money on Giving Tuesday, because again, we have year end coming up. But what you could do is you can say, let's make Giving Tuesday all about gratitude and just go all out in expressing gratitude for all of our supporters. Let's not worry about the money. Let's just let them know that we appreciate them so much. And in fact, look at what you guys did at the last event and all year long. You're just you're amazing supporters. I would make the emphasis on that, because you don't always want to be, if you're always take, it's not a good rhythm to get into for fundraising.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. I muted myself. Okay, so another question, actually variations of this question came up. Jim, I think you might be best to answer this, but from several people. They were curious how they can fundraise through streaming. What is the process? So if you can address that.
Sure. So that's a great question. The process is, there's a few different ways. I mean, if you do utilize, DonorDrive or a platform that has streaming built into it, you can follow the best practices of that specific fundraising software. And essentially, it's really just empowering your constituents to do it for you. It's essentially a DIY event. So they can really do what they want and just ask for donations. They just need to have that ability to have donations solicited through the streaming services. So there are some services out there that you can utilize by signing up, or I would check with your with the specific organization you work with for your peer-to-peer platform, or contact DonorDrive. We'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Thank you, Jim. Quick question to John, specifically talking about social media posts for Giving Tuesday. Do you have a benchmark or tip on how many posts you should have during that day itself?
I would say more than one for sure. I would say at least 3, but don't worry so much about how many. Worry about how what kind of value you're going to create for the donor, and how's the story about them. So in other words, if you post 10 during the day, but it's all about how amazing your supporters are, and you're telling this incredible impact story, I don't think people can get tired of that. But if you're posting 10 updates that are saying we're almost at our goal, we need more money, please, please, please give us money, then I think one of those is too much.
Mm-hmm. So it's focusing on the call to action. So we still have more questions, but being mindful of the time for everybody, let me just address some questions I've seen come through several times. Pages, all of the slides and the recording are going to be emailed to everybody tomorrow. So you will get everything in one email from Top Nonprofits. You will also get an email, I believe, Joanna and Jim, you're going to send something from DonorDrive, which would probably be more resources on how to use Google ad grants, because a lot of questions have come up about ad grants and about streaming. So too much to cover in the next 60 seconds. But certainly we will get those resources to you. And if you have questions, feel free to email myself or anybody here on the team. That would be great. And I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who took time out of their day for this, and you're learning new tactics to help your organization. It's fabulous stuff. So thank you. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, John. Thanks, Joanna.
You're welcome.
Thanks, DonorDrive. All right. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.